So then the last thing I just want to kind of as a general way to sort of show is days, like how the dayage works, right? So this is one day, scene 1 and scene 2, all right? This is one day, scene 3. This is like whopping big day, up till, I think it's up until, hold on a second, 3, up till 3, right? Big whopping, big day, number 3, right? Interesting. Then you got day 4, 5, and 6. Again, acceleration. Really, right? It's structured in acceleration. So you got to kind of like, you got to start getting away. You got to start moving stuff out of the way to just hit the highlights. Didn't say you don't have to say all the words. I mean, this is another chart of mine, right? If we're looking at the stage, picture, and if you look at the theatrical event in 3 parts, obviously I like 3 of them comedy. Right, if you look at the stage picture in 3 parts, you've got words. I can't hear all that. Your job is to speak, but I can't hear all that, right? That's going at, and this is going to be another one of those metaphors some of you of a certain age will not appreciate. 78 RPM. Right? Up above, we got the sunrise cue. 16 RPM. Right? You know what I'm saying? And here in the middle, story, 33 1/3. Human pace. Human absorption pace. So the idea, for those of you who are directors, is you line this stuff up for human pace, reception, in the moment of doing it. I can always go back and look up. Goodness knows, in the rehearsal room, we all know, the moment where we don't understand a passage, you know, everything stops, comes to a complete halt in the rehearsal room. Everybody goes to various knapsacks in the corner and says, my Arden says, you know, my thing is like, and it still doesn't help you. Still don't know what pancakes and mustard means and as you like it. That's when you go, 78, 78, 78, 78. Right? And this is about emotion. What I can absorb. All the levels of things. You're picking up the ones I need in the moment. The rest of it, honestly, I can look it up later. That's why they're printed. That's why we assume they have literary value, which they do. Tremendous literary value, right? So, again, this notion of sort of like, again, it's arbitrary in a way, but how interesting it is that this just, it's going to pick up speed. So lean in, I guess my big, you know, moral of the story this year, lean into the structure. It's there to be used. Don't fight against it. I don't see the point to fight against it, because it'll make your life so much easier if you get in that roller coaster cart and go along with it, rather than, I think I'll push it up the thing too. And I think, well, you know, I won't wear the seatbelt. Like, yeah, why? You know, so, I'm just saying, it's just that they all have this interesting kind of frame to them. They're not always the same frame, obviously, if we look at it. And this was one thing we were starting to do, was kind of put them in transparency, and we had kind of folded, kind of stacked them all on top. And they're all kind of, you know, a little bit different. It's not about that. That doesn't make them good or bad or right or wrong. It's just like, what is it? What is it made of? What's the proportion of it? What is my part in honoring those proportions of it? What do I get to contribute to it, right? And you know, after this is my job. This is the voice. It's my job to pay attention to all those words. Yeah, I get it. It's great. Go, 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 go. But I'm just here to say, sitting there, I'm not going to absorb them all. I'm not going to absorb them all in the 80 lines here, and I'm just, help me. Help me know in the baton what's going from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. Right? I can pick up the philosophy when I pick up Bartlett's, which apparently all of Hamlet is one big Bartlett's quote, right? So, or as the young people would say, man, he wrote a lot of cliches. Yes, he did indeed. Right. So, when you look at the crystal chart, the other chart is sort of the geometric one that I'm sort of also fond of, and you see sort of these three worlds that kind of have sort of equal kind of circles to them and stuff. And that also is an interesting way to sort of look at the three worlds. And Ilana said to me today, well, what if we charted like who dies in the play, and is it, tally up the teams and see who loses the most? And it was like, well, that's kind of an interesting thing to do, and we probably would do it at some point, especially in the history plays. I was thinking that last night. I was like, there's always those moments where you talk about 40,000 dead and only 5 of ours. So I was like, yeah, I think there's a little PR going on.
Spin.
Yeah, a little spin, right? A little spin. But you kind of go, wow, that's cool, right? Kind of things like how many, and at the end of Hamlet, you kind of, you're adding things up. You're kind of going, a lot of dead bodies there, and then you scrape off the stage, kind of thing. So that is one way to do it. But in this particular play, when we were talking last week about sort of the not only sort of historical moment and sort of the writing historical moment in his career. We were talking about how we went from history, it goes from history plays at the end of the batch of Henry V and all of those up till then, with only Henry VIII left, years later, to going into like the big tragedies, Romeo and Juliet aside. We're about to enter this big tragedy, so that sort of like halfway through kind of thing, halfway through his career. The difference between, we start the play, we're talking a little bit about the importance of where a play starts in terms of height of, what's the urgency, what's sort of the event that sort of like kicks it into, what's it going to be used for, how are we going to get the most dramatic value out of where we start the play, right? And all of Shakespeare plays, we've talked about this before, are chronological in a sense. One of the great 20th century, I think, sort of inventions or devices or uses and conventions that we've used is playing with time, sort of going backwards in time. There's that wonderful play by Harold Pinter, Betrayal, right?
Yeah.
That starts at the end and works its way. Stop Kiss also has got an interesting sort of use of time, even though we're still moving obviously forward in time. But it's just sort of interesting the way we mess with time. He also messed with time in an interesting way. It's the only thing with time he didn't really do, which was sort of have flashbacks. Except a little bit maybe dreamy things, but no, actually everything keeps moving forward, right? It's all about being on the balls of your feet. In some ways, I don't know how you are in the plays actually without actually being on the balls of your feet constantly, because they move, they're deliberately designed to move forward. It's almost like you can't help yourself. If you stay in the sort of rhythm of them, stay in the cart of the roller coaster, you almost can't help it because of the way they're designed. He doesn't do anything to stop forward motion. So just something to sort of think about. Anyway, the notion of sort of going from history to tragedy, the notion of starting the play at the end, we don't know this at the moment, of course, but at the end of the Roman Empire, and we're starting the Roman Republic, right? Just historically speaking. And would audiences know that or not know that? Maybe. But I don't know. Do I know that? Sometimes. I get it backwards. But I know that there's like a big moment of change that's happening, that it's big what's going to happen here. This sort of discussion that's going to happen, the fight that's going to happen, the result of this thing halfway through, that there's going to be a different world at the end. Do I know in the moment of it what it specifically is in that Google, Wikipedia kind of way? No, I do not. I don't have to. That's not the job. The job is that there was a big change that happened and there are consequences, and it has emotional feel. It feels, there's something I've just been touched about. Plays are the shortest distance from emotion to emotion. And that's what you have to sort of keep primary and focused on. The details of stuff, I'm like, look it up later. If you can look it up, don't hold on to it, right? But emotions, those are facts. They're really interesting facts. They're malleable facts. Which is sort of the fun and dangerous thing about the theater, isn't it? Because I'm about to manipulate you to cry. I'm going to manipulate you to feel a certain way. I'm going to manipulate you to believe something. Incredible political act, right? Really. And I'm going to do it with the illusion of it's only a play. Right?